Right, so starting now to build a domino effect for our future. Okay, so a lot of Black educators in Quebec have said that possibly having an Afrocentric alternative school system is a way to opening up segregation. So what do you think about this, Ushana?
I think that to use the word segregation is just a hot button issue because it brings us all back to, 1930s, 40s, 50s in the United States, 60s when schools were segregated. I think here we have Sikhs or Armenians or Greeks or Jewish people who have their own schools and who do it because they want to instill a sense of pride, a sense of history in their community. So on that note, I would say it is absolutely not segregation to move our children to a Black-focused or Afrocentric school. That being said, I still think it is a disservice to our children because part of the reason they feel that they are not served by the mainstream community is because maybe the teachers in the school system are not sensitive to their issues, or the other students are not sensitive to their issues, and by moving them to a Black-focused school, it absolves the mainstream education system of the responsibility of sensitizing our teachers and servicing our students to the level that they deserve it, given that we're all taxpayers and positive contributors in this Canadian society and in Montreal.
I agree, but I agree on most of what you said. I mean, in terms of segregation, I don't think anybody should be in the position, especially if the Black community decides to have a Black-focused school, that we're segregating our kids, because I mean we've been victims of segregation ourselves, so I think it wouldn't be fair or just. With that being said, I don't think it's a disservice to kids because just for the fact that they have somewhere, they have a common, when you look at the mainstream educational system, and I believe that they fail Black kids immensely. If you have a Black-focused school, then at least it gives a template for mainstream teachers and schools on how maybe to better educate the Black kids that are in the mainstream education system. If they have somewhere to look at, because right now they don't have, they're just doing on what they think is right. But if you have a Black-focused school and that can maybe show, and then that would help them in terms of them, educating and being a good service also. So, one hand helps the other in a sense.
Well, I really don't feel like segregation is going to be a big issue, but I think it's important to realize that if the same school board is teaching our kids in these Black-focused schools as well as in the public school system, it's hard to really say how there's going to be a new approach. I mean, if you have the same people who created the old approach saying that the only thing we're going to change now is to group Black students in a school and slightly change the history curriculum, I don't know if that approach is really going to meet the goal of helping students stay in school and be more energized in school and better able to handle the problems they have outside of school. Instead, what I think it's going to do is maybe slightly change and modify the curriculum for the students who do decide to go. And in that case, it might help a little bit. But for the kids who have already decided, okay, I don't want to do school, I'm not that interested, I don't see how it's going to help them.
Well, I mean, it could help them in the sense that just being in a Black-focused school, it's like I said, if your friend succeeds, then you want to succeed, and if you're able to have that kind of thinking, positive thinking, then it ultimately helps the community, because they're going to go out and they're going to spread that kind of positive atmosphere, positive vibe, and the younger generation, like you said, that might not, that you got to catch them early, then they're going to catch that feeling early. They're going to see the older kids doing it, the 13 and 14-year-olds coming back to school and being excited about school, and they're going to be, well, what's this excitement about? What am I learning? And they're learning there's something that they can relate to.
But don't you feel that for kids to really get excited about school, they're going to have to come up with a new approach other than just the same approach that they've come with of how they're presenting the material and how they're trying to get kids engaged with the subject matter?
Of course, yeah, you definitely have to have a new approach. But I mean, ultimately, it's all those the people on the board, educational board, they have to understand, you have to make sure that these are caring people that want to see their kids succeed. These kids succeed. If they don't, then you can have Black-focused school, white-focused schools, whatever focused schools. If the people don't want those kids to succeed and to come up with an innovative new approach, then obviously it's not going to help in anybody.
Okay, those are all really good points, but I just wanted to bring it to basically the language situation in Quebec. Will this affect the implementation of such an Afrocentric school? What do you think, Matt?
Well, I think any school that they would open would have to be able to serve both English Montrealers and French Montrealers, so it could be an issue of how to make that effective, you know, in one school, or maybe they'd have to have 2 pilot schools or something like this.
Okay, so incorporating both languages.
That's it.
I think the challenge may come with funding. Everything always comes down to funding with the government. So unlike in Ontario where this debate first started, where they would only need 1 school, if we do need to have 2 languages, then it may in some cases mean that we need double the resources. So it all comes down to money, and of course the first question the government is going to ask is, where's this money going to come from? I'm not saying that there isn't an answer, that we shouldn't fight for it, but it will be a challenge because we will need double the resources, because as a Black community we want to help both our English speaking and French speaking students.
Right. Okay, so the language situation might affect the financing of such an Afrocentric school.
I agree 100% with what she's explained. You have to have French and English, and in order to have both, then you definitely have to have some kind of resource, some kind of funding, and the government might be able to fund one school appropriately, but maybe the other one. And again, since you're in Quebec, they're might focus more on the French-speaking school, and maybe, you know, not as much the English because of the Bill 101, where they want to preserve the language. So a lot of different things come into effect when you're talking about the French and English, because it's always been a battle, I guess, in Montreal. You know, the English speaking and the French speaking, and the French speaking tend to think that the English are coming and invading, and so you definitely want to cater again to the French and the English speaking.
Right, so
Quebecers.
Basically, like, the situation would be more favorable towards a French language school system.
Could be, yes.
It could be if the government was willing to fund schools.
Okay, well, that's it for our AfroPundit show. And thank you for listening.